Good morning to you, our viewers of High Television. You're welcome to the program of Tuesday, the 18th of June 2024. On this program, we focus on the newspapers as we'll be back to give you what's there saying. Once more, you're heartily welcome back. Maintaining Larry Kevin. It's about to start off with the first paper for today, the Son of Nobel Waso. For that is what you can find on the Sun all the way from Limbe for this morning. And that's the Sun newspaper. Grammy grants, Germany grants 5 million euros to push youth development in Cameroon. We move on to Defense Ministry on offensive against indiscipline, fraud, and SDF voice of the voiceless. Southwest Regional Chair Kona Makia speaks to that paper. We move on to that set paper, import substitution policy. Youth Minister Muluna Futso empowers 50 youths in hot drink production. You want to find details on that set paper for this morning. We're taking you to the next paper, that is the Horizon. The Horizon for this morning have as lead story. It says, for accurate reporting on Cameroon's public debt, CAA management equips journalists, and in that said publication, still public service doctors barred from switching to private sector. And sixth ordinary edition of Cameroon Student Ingenuity and Talent Contest opens tomorrow, city of Douala. Moving on to Nigerian lawmakers press Tinubu to use diplomatic and political channels for campaigning for the release of Sisiku Ayub Tabi. Away from that publication, we crossed over to the next paper for today, that is the voice of Randy Josa. Says bilingualism commissions ceaseless to read details on that publication for this morning. And we move on to this other story, Cameroon Tribune for today, Cup of Cameroon. It says Colomb and Egle in the finals. You can find more on that paper on how the finals of the Cup of Cameroon will be played between these two football teams. And Feast of Sacrifice, Muslims celebrate faith, truth, and peace all across the nation during this Feast of Sacrifice. We move away from Cameroon Tribune for this morning and to the next paper for today, that is Le Point. Le Point for today report on the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development and CAMSIC. The paper reports on the story that says follow up. That is with the lead of that story for today. For this morning, we move on to this other story, the 60th anniversary of CNUCED. It talks of Bagang Atangana who goes on the offensive. Get to read details for this morning. We move away from Le Point for today to the next publication of the Pilot, all the way from Bamenda. The Pilot for today reports on the African Child Day 2024. It says CHRC for Technical Education, Scientific Research. That is what you can find on that paper for today, the Pilot. And the three segments of the states and their different roles in economic development of Cameroon. And rejoinder, it says Bafut Mayor Ngwanko Lawrence is not a liability to CPTM party but an asset. Get to read more twist on that for that paper for today. Leadership for this morning reports on Murtala Mohammed Way not rename Wale Soyinka, according to federal government. And inadequate infrastructure, Nigeria failed to stop 1.4 trillion naira loss to medical tourism. In that said paper, Obi fought plan to buy new presidential jet for Tinubu amidst hardship that Nigerians are facing. Ignored Wiki's critic CSOs urged President Tinubu tenure expiration. The paper reports on Rivers youth take over local government secretariat. We take you now to the next paper this day for this morning. National Criminal Court, the ICC, and Rivers local government crisis showdown looms. Armed groups vow to sack council chairman, and Tinubu reforms meant for governor. We move on to the next Nigerian tabloid, Nigerian News Direct for this morning. Anxiety as Rivers government issues ultimatum to local government chairman to vacate councils. In that said paper, still the paper reports on Fidelity Bank rank amongst top banks in a ESG report. Moving on to cholera outbreak in Lagos City, Island records highest number of cholera cases as some 106 suspected cases were detected, according to the Health Commissioner for Lagos State. And the Guardian for this morning, it says out of stock, anxiety of 200% hike, scarcity hits hospitals, essential drugs markets. In that said paper, cost of revenue collection gaps on to 214.29 billion naira in the first quarter of 2024. Air Force confirms killing of 100 terrorists in Katsina raid in Katsina State. And Lukman Abdulsarak orders call Tinubu's administration on economy promises. Nigerian Tribune for this morning, tension in Rivers over control of local governments. Council as tenure of chairman expires. Obi kicks against proposed purchase of presidential aircraft for Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Cholera, Nigerian must prevent spread of cholera to schools, according to the United Nations Organization Children Education Fund, known as UNICEF. We move away from the UNICEF reports to New Telegraph for today. Talks of Salah spending triggered naira scarcity nationwide, and Tinubu to attend South Africa's president inauguration. Cyril Ramaphosa again also rejects new varsity governing councils. Daily Trust for this morning reports on Tinubu didn't replace Murtala Muhammad's name with Soyinka, according to federal government. Sacrifice leads by example, Nigerians replied Tinubu. And we move on to Doha Katsina Ho Salah Dubai. You want to find more on that said publication for today. Vanguard for this morning talks of Nigerian struggle as high drug price for health crisis. Get to read details on that paper for this morning. Kidnapping, families of Lebanese nationals are rebuff police intervention, local government autonomy who will await the Supreme Court's decision, says Senate. And tension in prison over rising food inflation. Get to read more on that paper for today. The Punch for this morning talks of cholera spread, fear of school outbreak rises as pupils resume, and import duty. Federal government summons 80 private jet owners over operating People's Senate to receive 2014 supplementary budget this July. The Nation for today talks of Emmy crisis. Presidency dismisses Kwankwaso's Kanu alarm. We move away from the Nigerian tabloids. We come back to the Cameroonian papers for this morning. We'll move on to Newswatch of Eugene Z. Douala Port Authority denounced flaws in World Bank's container ports performance ranking report, and MINDEF boss dismisses 4 soldiers for paying allegiance to traditional ruler. This is from the Bamum people. And we move on to Northwest. It says REWAC bets on media funds to curb sexual gender-based violence. Get to read details on that said paper for today. Did you know, like humans, elephants too call each other by names? Cameroon Tribune for today, local development. The paper reports on regional councils who are out to do better, and Feast of Sacrifice Muslims celebrate faith, truth, and peace. We move away from Cameroon Tribune to the next paper for this morning. That is the voice of Randy Josa report on Bilingualism Commission, seasoning 7 years strong, healthy living, the surprising dangers of cheese. And we crossed over to Sancta Ritu for this morning. He reports on the National Assembly and the Senate. It says the niche of prevarication and impunity. Get to read more on that paper for today. CDHC advocate for the diaspora, and solar energy, alternative source of energy in Cameroon, as Cameroonian tends to solar for their daily programming. Get to read more on that paper for today. And for one show for today, report on the gesture of human resource management from the Ministry of Public Service and Administrative Reform as they get into the CGPS mode of payment. Talking on digitalization, the minister himself, Joseph Anderson Lee, focuses on that. And we move on to 2025 in retrospect, or 2025 in focus. It's a CPDM all across the nation are galvanizing and campaigning for massive victory for the said party come the 2025 general elections. Moving on to quotidian emissions for this morning, a report on presidential elections 2025. Samuel Etofi's candidates, that's the question quotidian emissions is asking for this morning. International trade. The Minister of Trade, Lukman Abraga Tanganang, advocates for Cameroon's trade in this international trade that is taking place in Europe. And we move on to Olympic Games Paris 2024. It says Cameroonian athletes who qualified for the 2024 Summer Olympics in Paris, France. We'll take you now to the Nature newspaper. Santé Nature Info for today talks of financing vaccination, the plan that is on the scan. Get to read more. That's a paper for today. The World Health Organization talks of the Cameroon case following the meeting where the Minister of Public Health, Manuela Malashi, met with the Director General for the World Health Organization, Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus. Get to read more on that said paper for today. We take you now to the next paper for today. That is the Guardian. The Guardian reports on out of stock anxiety as 200% hike scarcity hits hospital essentials drug markets. Get to read more on that paper for today. Lukman Abdulzarak others score Tinubu's administration on economic promises. We move on to the next publication, Le Chapeau of Carol Tamba. It talks of the cereal sector. It says Cameroon to make sure that they get independence when it comes to wheat and cereal sectors in the country. Cameroon ports, the paper reports on the last Cameroon ports are among the last in world classification of ports in Cameroon following this international rating that was done. Get to read more on page 8 on Le Chapeau of Carol Tamba for today. The quotidian economy for this morning reports on the discourse of public debt that has increased since March of 2024. You want to find details on that. For today, the Central African sub-region, the paper reports on the Central African sub-region and the East. It says Chomsi Amoke, the new Director General of Yango. Get to read more on that paper. For today, production, the paper report on MTN Cameroon engages in some startup businesses of 5,000 startups. Get to read details on that publication for today. And Mutation of this morning talks of Cup of Cameroon Operation Column. Get to read details on that paper for today. And we move on to this question and response session that just ended with this parastater would journalists on the need for government to engage in more visibility of her activities. The Guardian Post for this morning of Christian Guy reports of the Douala Port Authority questions objectivity of World Bank's report on the Douala Port Authority and Cameroonian ports that are amongst the last when it comes to rating by the World Bank reports. The Guardian Post asks Songzi for wins all around best educationist awards, and Yaounde talks of Mada International College graduate. Not that we talk on